Zixlar watched the strange vessel through the viewing portal. It was small compared to the Council's ships, plain and functional without the elegant curves of their own fleet. The alien ship had appeared 3 days ago at the edge of the Andromeda cluster, sending simple greeting messages in various mathematical patterns until the Council acknowledged them. "They call themselves humans," Elder Voxem said, his thought voice rippling through Zixlar's mind. "This is the first contact with their kind." Zixlar, a junior xenobiologist barely a cycle into his position with the Council of Seven Worlds, felt honored to witness such a historic moment. His 6 heart chambers pulsed with excitement beneath his pale blue skin. "Remember," Elder Voxem warned, "no direct mental probing. These creatures appear to communicate only through sound waves and have no telepathic abilities." The docking tube extended, creating a sealed pathway between the ships. Zixlar stood with the other Council representatives, their tall, slender forms dwarfing the corridor. The inner door slid open. 5 beings walked through, smaller than expected, with only 2 arms and 2 legs, covered in various colored fabrics. Their skin tones ranged from light to dark brown. The one in front wore a dark uniform with small, shiny objects on the shoulders. "Greetings," the leader said, the sound waves vibrating through the air. "I am Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. We come in peace and friendship." The Council members remained still, allowing their translation devices to process the verbal language. When they responded, they used the sound devices adapted for non-telepathic species. "The Council of Seven Worlds welcomes you," Elder Voxem said formally. "I am Elder Voxem, and this is our diplomatic team." That's when Zixlar saw it for the first time. The human captain's facial muscles moved, pulling the corners of her mouth upward, exposing the white, bone-like structures inside. It wasn't a threat display. At least Zixlar didn't think so, but something else entirely. "What is that expression?" Zixlar whispered to the senior xenologist beside him. "They call it a smile," the senior replied. "Our preliminary research suggests it indicates positive emotions." The human delegation followed them to the conference chamber. Commander Reyes walked with confidence despite being surrounded by beings twice her height. The humans looked small and fragile, their technology clearly behind the Council's by at least several centuries. During the meeting, the Council outlined the strict rules for newcomers to their space: limited travel zones, technology sharing restrictions, and mandatory inspections. The other humans showed various expressions, some frowning and exchanging glances, but Commander Reyes maintained composure. When presented with the terms, which Zixlar knew were deliberately restrictive, Commander Reyes simply looked at the document and showed that expression again, the smile. "These terms are acceptable for now," she said calmly. "We look forward to building a relationship with the Seven Worlds." Something about that smile made Zixlar's spine ridges tingle with unease. The expression reached the human's mouth, but not her eyes, which remained calculating and sharp. As the humans departed, Elder Voxem seemed pleased. That went well. They know their place. But Zixlar couldn't forget the human captain's smile. For reasons he couldn't explain, it filled him with a strange, creeping dread, like watching storm clouds gather on the horizon. 2 cycles passed since the first meeting with the humans. Zixlar stood at the grand docking bay of Nexus Prime, the shining capital station of the Seven Worlds. Today, Commander Reyes and her delegation would arrive for formal diplomatic talks. "Nervous?" asked Senior Diplomat Mevtik, noticing Zixlar's color shifting slightly purple, a sign of anxiety in their species. "I am honored to be chosen as their cultural liaison," Zixlar replied, straightening his formal robes. In truth, he had requested this assignment, fascinated by these strange humans. The human ship docked with precision. This vessel was larger than before, sleeker too. Zixlar noted the upgrades but kept silent. Commander Reyes emerged first, now wearing a crisp white uniform with more decorations. 4 other humans followed her, carrying data tablets and small cases. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," Elder Voxem announced. "We trust your journey was comfortable." "Quite comfortable, thank you," Commander Reyes replied, displaying that expression again, the smile. "We bring greetings from Earth and gifts to honor this historic occasion." The humans presented beautifully crafted objects, a globe of their planet, artwork showing Earth's landscapes, and sealed containers of what they called seeds from their world's plants. During the next 3 days, Zixlar observed the humans closely. They were assigned quarters in the diplomatic wing, where Zixlar showed them how to use the food synthesizers and environmental controls. "Your technology is remarkable," said one human scientist, Dr. Chen, as she adjusted the room temperature. "We're centuries behind you." Zixlar noticed how the humans frequently touched each other's arms or shoulders when speaking, physical contact that would be considered invasive among his people. They smiled often, but with different meanings. Dr. Chen's smile seemed genuine, reaching her eyes when she examined council technology with wonder. Commander Reyes smiled differently. Her smile appeared when the council revealed only obsolete technology, limiting human access to more advanced systems. It appeared again when maps of restricted territories were presented, territories with minimal resources that the council considered worthless. On the 4th day, the council presented the formal agreement. It severely limited human expansion in the cluster and required inspections of all human vessels. The terms favored the council in every way. These restrictions seemed quite thorough, Dr. Chen whispered to another human. Commander Reyes studied the document carefully. The council members exchanged satisfied thought messages among themselves. Certainly humans would either protest or reluctantly accept their inferior position. Instead, Commander Reyes looked up with that same unreadable smile. "We accept these terms in the spirit of building trust between our worlds." Later, in the privacy of the human quarters, Zixlar delivered some translation updates. He overheard Commander Reyes speaking to her team. "They're underestimating us," she said quietly. "That's exactly what we need right now." When she noticed Zixlar at the door, her expression changed instantly to that practiced smile. "Thank you for the updates," she said warmly. "Your counsel is most generous." That night, Zixlar added to his growing research file on human expressions. Under smile, he wrote, "Warning sign, defensive display, acceptance, deception, requires further study." He couldn't explain his unease, but as he watched the humans map every corridor and junction of Nexus Prime during their cultural tours, he wondered what lay behind Commander Reyes' perfect diplomatic smile. 6 months passed since the diplomatic agreements were signed. Zixlar, now promoted to senior cultural observer, studied the reports from across council space. Human ships operated exactly within their permitted zones, never once violating boundaries. This perfect compliance bothered Zixlar more than any rebellion would have. "You've become obsessed with these humans," Elder Voxem said during the council meeting. "They follow every rule we set. They accept the worst trade routes without complaint. What more do you want?" Zixlar displayed his findings on the large holographic screen. "Look at their flight patterns. They're mapping everything, not just their zones, but the surrounding areas too. And the trade routes they've chosen form a network that connects all major council systems. For efficient trading, obviously," another council member dismissed. "Then why choose routes with minimal resources?" Zixlar asked. "And why do they carry improved scanning equipment on every vessel?" The council members shifted uncomfortably. Before they could respond, the emergency alert sounded. A council colony at the edge of their territory was under attack. Shurtik ships detected at Outpost Gamma 12. The security officer reported. "They've destroyed the defense platforms." Estimated casualties: 300. The Shurtik Empire, ancient enemies of the Seven Worlds, had been quiet for decades. Now they had returned with unexpected ferocity. "How long until our defense fleet arrives?" Elder Voxem demanded. "At least 6 hours, Elder," The door to the council chamber opened, and Commander Rice entered, now wearing a commander's uniform with additional insignia. Without invitation, she approached the tactical display. "The HS Prometheus is 40 minutes from Gamma 12, she said calmly. "With your permission, we can assist." The council members exchanged thoughts rapidly. The human vessel was small, with limited weapons according to inspection reports. But they had no other options. "Permission granted," Elder Voxem said reluctantly. 3 hours later, the Prometheus returned to Nexus Prime. The reports were stunning. The human vessel had engaged 2 Shirk-Tik destroyers, disabled their weapons, and forced them to retreat, all without destroying them. "How did you manage this with your limited capabilities?" Zixlar asked when Commander Reyes returned to the council chamber. That smile appeared again. "Creative tactics," she replied. "Sometimes being technologically outmatched forces innovation." Later that week, 6 more Shirk-Tik attacks occurred across council space. Each time, human vessels happened to be nearby, always arriving just in time, always succeeding where council ships struggled. In the privacy of his quarters, Zixlar reviewed security footage from the Prometheus during battle. The humans had been calm, too calm, as if they had expected the attacks. Their limited weapons had performed far better than inspection reports suggested possible. Most disturbing was Commander Reyes during battle. While her crew worked efficiently around her, she had sat in her command chair watching the Shirk-Tik ships with that same smile. When the council voted to request formal human assistance against the Shirk-Tik, Zixlar alone opposed it. But as the vote passed, he couldn't help noticing how perfectly the Shirk-Tik attacks had positioned the humans as necessary allies. And through it all, Commander Reyes kept smiling that unsettling smile. Emergency alert. Tertius IV is under heavy attack. The announcement echoed through Nexus Prime, interrupting the council's regular session. Zixlar felt his heart's race. Tertius IV was their most important mining colony, providing rare minerals needed for advanced technology. If it fell, the council would lose 20% of its resource production. Shirk-Tik warfleet detected, 5 destroyers and 1 dreadnought. The tactical officer reported. Council Defense Fleet is responding but estimates arrival in 3 hours. The council chamber erupted in panic. Tertius IV's defenses couldn't hold for 3 hours against such a force. Elder Voxem turned to the human representative who had been observing the session. "Where is Commander Reyes? Can the Prometheus assist?" "The Prometheus is already en route, Elder," the human replied calmly. "Commander Reyes anticipated your request." Zixlar frowned. How could she have anticipated this? The attack was just reported. With the council's permission, Zixlar joined the communications team to monitor the situation. As the newest member of the Security Council, he had been assigned to observe human activities. On the main screen, they watched as the Shirk-Tik ships bombarded Tertius IV's orbital platforms. Mining facilities exploded one after another. "Prometheus arriving at Tertius IV," announced the communications officer. The human ship appeared on screen. Zixlar gasped. The vessel looked different, larger, with visible weapon systems that hadn't been there before. "What happened to their ship?" he asked. "Unknown," replied the officer. "Their transponder confirms it's the Prometheus, but our scans show significant modifications. The Prometheus moved with unexpected speed, positioning itself between the attackers and the colony. The Shirk-Tik dreadnought fired first, a powerful energy beam that should have destroyed any vessel of the Prometheus's size. Instead, the beam seemed to wash over it, barely affecting its shields. "Impossible," whispered someone behind Zixlar. "Their shield technology shouldn't be that advanced." Commander Reyes' voice came through the communication channel. "This is the HS Prometheus engaging hostile forces. Tertius IV Colonial Authority, please begin evacuation procedures." What followed was unlike anything Zixlar had seen before. The Prometheus moved in patterns that seemed to confuse the Shirk-Tik targeting systems. Its weapons, far more powerful than previously disclosed, disabled 3 enemy destroyers in quick succession. During a brief moment of communication clarity, Zixlar's monitoring equipment detected a fragment of transmission. Phase 2 complete. Awaiting further instructions from Earth Command. Before he could process this, the feed cut out. When it returned, the Shurktik dreadnought was retreating, along with the remaining destroyers. 2 days later, Commander Reyes stood before the full council, receiving their highest honor for saving Tertius IV. How did your vessel withstand that attack? Zixlar asked directly. And when did you upgrade your weapons systems? Commander Reyes smiled that same unreadable smile. Emergency protocols, she explained. All human vessels carry defensive capabilities that activate only in dire situations. We didn't mention them because they're meant as a last resort. The council accepted this explanation readily, but Zixlar couldn't shake what he'd heard in that fragmented transmission. Phase 2 complete. What was Phase 2? And what would Phase 3 bring? Request to join the Prometheus crew as a cultural exchange officer, Zixlar said, standing before the council. A week had passed since the Tertius IV incident. Elder Voxem looked surprised. Why would you want to leave your position here? To strengthen our alliance, Zixlar replied carefully. We know so little about humans. This will build trust. What he couldn't say was that he needed to learn the truth about Commander Reyes and her mysterious smile. The council approved his request, and surprisingly, so did Commander Reyes. 3 days later, Zixlar boarded the Prometheus with a small bag of personal items. The human vessel was strange inside. Smaller corridors, brighter lights, and constant noise from machines and crew members talking. No peaceful telepathic silence like on council ships. Lieutenant Park showed him to his quarters, a tiny room compared to his spacious chambers on Nexus Prime. Sorry about the size, Park said. Space is limited on our vessels. It's adequate, Zixlar replied, noticing how every inch was carefully designed for efficiency. Over the next few days, Zixlar observed the human crew. They worked in shifts, trained constantly, and maintained their equipment with remarkable attention. Without telepathy, they relied on regular verbal reports and something called chain of command. Most interesting was their combat training. Zixlar watched from an observation deck as crew members practiced fighting scenarios against enemies that looked nothing like the Shurktik. Some resembled council species. When he asked about this, Lieutenant Park explained, "We prepare for all possibilities. Standard procedure." One evening, while most of the crew was in the dining hall, Zixlar used his council override codes to access Commander Reyes' private quarters. He knew it was wrong, but his suspicions demanded action. Inside, he found a data terminal still active. The screen showed detailed maps of council space, far more detailed than what the council had provided. Another file contained technical specifications of council defense systems, including weaknesses. Most disturbing was a file labeled Earth Command Directives. Zixlar opened it and read. Phase 1. Establish presence within council space. Present minimal capabilities. Phase 2. Engineer crisis requiring human intervention. Demonstrate selective capabilities. Phase 3. Secure strategic positions throughout council territory. Before he could read more, the door opened. Commander Reyes entered, her face showing brief surprise before settling into that familiar smile. Curious about human information systems, Zixlar, she asked calmly. I was lost, he lied poorly. She gestured to the chair. Please, sit. Since you're here, we might as well talk. Feeling trapped, Zixlar sat down. Commander Reyes turned off the terminal and faced him. Your people have been spacefaring for 2,000 years, she said, yet you've explored barely a fraction of this galaxy. Do you know why? Zixlar remained silent. Fear, she continued. Your council stops expansion whenever you meet resistance. Humans are different. Obstacles make us more determined. What is Phase 3? Zixlar asked directly. That smile again, cold and calculating. "Insurance," she replied. "When you've been nearly wiped out as many times as humans have, you learn to prepare for the worst." That night, Zixlar couldn't sleep. From his quarters, he overheard Commander Reyes speaking via communication link. "Phase 3 begins tomorrow. The Council suspects nothing." Zixlar barely slept that night. At first light, he tried to send a warning message to the Council, but all communication systems were temporarily down for maintenance. The Prometheus changed course suddenly, heading back to Nexus Prime at high speed. When Zixlar reached the bridge, Commander Reyes was already addressing the crew. "We've received reports of a major Shirktik fleet mobilizing," she announced. "All hands to battle stations. We'll reach Nexus Prime ahead of the enemy." Zixlar felt his heart sink. "How many ships?" he asked. Commander Reyes turned to him, that smile perfectly in place. 23 warships, including 3 superdreadnoughts, the largest fleet they've ever assembled. By the time they reached Nexus Prime, panic had spread throughout the station. The Council's long-range scanners had confirmed the Shirktik fleet's approach. Council defense ships scrambled to form a protective barrier, but everyone knew they were outmatched. In the emergency council session, Commander Reyes stood calmly before the frightened leaders. "The Shirktik fleet will arrive in 12 hours, she said. "Your defenses cannot stop them, but we can help." "How?" Elder Voxem demanded. "Your single ship." "Not one ship," Commander Reyes interrupted. She activated a holographic display showing dozens of human vessels appearing at the edges of Council space. "The Earth fleet has been on standby. We can deploy to all critical systems within 6 hours." The Council members looked at each other in shock. "You had this fleet hidden all along?" Zixlar asked. Commander Reyes nodded. "Insurance, as I mentioned. What do you want in exchange for this assistance?" Elder Voxem asked cautiously. Commander Reyes presented a document, the Alliance Protocol, she called it. It proposed joint defense operations, human outposts throughout Council territory, and shared command of military resources. "This would give humans access to all our systems," one Council member protested. "It would give us the ability to protect all your systems," Commander Reyes corrected, her smile unwavering. The debate lasted for hours. Zixlar argued strongly against the proposal, describing what he had found in Commander Reyes' quarters. But without proof, and with the Shirktik threat looming, his concerns were dismissed as paranoia. "We have no choice," Elder Voxem finally declared. "The Alliance is approved." Commander Reyes' smile widened just slightly. "A wise decision. I'll coordinate with Earth immediately." Within hours, human ships appeared throughout Council space, positioning themselves at key strategic points. They easily repelled the Shirktik attacks that followed, displaying weapons technology far beyond what the Council had ever seen. On Nexus Prime, construction began on a joint command center that was primarily staffed by humans. Similar facilities appeared on every major Council world and station. 1 week later, Zixlar tried to access the command center's central database, but found his clearance denied. "I'm sorry, but this area is restricted," said a human security officer. "Commander's orders." That evening, Zixlar watched from his window as more human ships arrived. They no longer bothered hiding their true capabilities: advanced weapons, energy shields, and technologies the Council had never seen before. The Council had celebrated the Alliance as salvation, but looking at Commander Reyes addressing the crowds below, her smile now triumphant rather than mysterious, Zixlar understood the truth. The invasion had already happened, not with violence, but with a smile. 3 months passed since the Alliance began. Human ships now patrolled throughout Council space, and human advisors sat in every major government office. Commander Reyes had been promoted to Alliance Commander, with authority equal to the entire Council. Zixlar spent these months gathering data. Though pushed to the sidelines, he used his xenobiology credentials to access ship movement records and battle reports. Today, he stood before the Council again, determined to be heard. "The evidence is clear," Zixler said, displaying a star map. "The Shriktik never attack where human ships are stationed. They only target areas defended by Council forces." Elder Voxem sighed. "Perhaps because the humans are better defenders, which keeps the Shriktik away. Or perhaps," Zixlar countered, "because the attacks are coordinated." The council chamber went silent. Such an accusation was serious. Zixlar continued, showing more data. "In 57 attacks, not a single human ship has been seriously damaged. The Shriktik weapons seem to malfunction whenever they target human vessels." "What are you suggesting?" another council member asked. "That the humans and Shriktik are working together," Zixlar said firmly. "The attacks are designed to make us dependent on human protection." Elder Voxem looked troubled. "That's a serious accusation without solid proof." "Look at the pattern," Zixlar insisted. "Every attack pushes us to grant humans more access, more authority. We've given them control of our defense systems, our communication networks, even our resource distribution." The council debated briefly, but most dismissed Zixlar's concerns as paranoia. The session ended with a vote of confidence in the human alliance. That evening, Zixlar received a dinner invitation from Commander Reyes. He considered declining but knew this might be his chance to understand her plans. The dinner was held in her new quarters, a luxurious suite in what had once been the council's private wing. Human guards stood at every door. "I'm glad you could join me," Commander Rice said, gesturing to a chair. "I've been wanting to discuss your presentation to the council today." Zixlar froze. "How did you know about that?" "Council sessions are closed." Commander Rice smiled a calculating smile. "Very little happens in Nexus Prime without my knowledge now." She poured a drink for herself and offered one to Zixlar, which he declined. "Your pattern recognition skills are impressive," she continued. "Most council members can't see what's right in front of them." "So you admit the attacks are coordinated?" Zixlar asked directly. Commander Reyes took a sip before answering. "I admit that humans are very good at creating situations that benefit us." "You've effectively taken control of our civilization," Zixlar said. "Why not simply declare it?" "Because willing allies are more valuable than conquered subjects," she replied. "Most of your people are happy with our protection. Only a few, like you, see the reality." She leaned forward, her smile fading for the first time. "Tomorrow, we begin the final phase of our operations. I've always admired your perception, Zixlar. You could have a place in the new order." As Zixlar left her quarters, he realized her words were both an offer and a warning. The humans weren't just taking control, they were transforming the 7 worlds completely. And that smile now seemed less mysterious than terrifying. Zixlar couldn't sleep that night. Commander Reyes' words echoed in his mind. Tomorrow, we begin the final phase. He had to find proof of the human plans before it was too late. Before dawn, he slipped out of his quarters. Most of Nexus Prime was quiet, with only security patrols moving through the corridors. Using service tunnels that most humans didn't know about, Zixlar made his way to the outer ring of the station. Communication Relay Station 12 was supposed to be abandoned, officially listed as damaged during a Shriktik attack. But Zixlar had noticed human technicians entering it several times. The door was locked, but his old maintenance code still worked. Inside, the station was far from abandoned. New equipment hummed quietly, blinking with activity. At the center stood a device unlike any council technology, sleek, dark, and radiating a strange energy. Zixlar examined the control panel. The symbols were in human language, but he had studied enough to understand some of it. This was a communication device, but it was transmitting on frequencies used by Shriktik ships. "I knew it," he whispered, quickly connecting his datapad to download evidence. The download was almost complete when a voice came from behind him. "Curiosity is both your greatest strength and weakness, Zixlar." He turned to find Lieutenant Park and 2 human security officers, weapons drawn. "The Shriktik are working for you," Zixlar said. "You hired them to attack the council." Lieutenant Park nodded. "Mercenaries are useful. The Shriktik were eager to fight after the council pushed them from their territory centuries ago." "You've been planning this invasion for years," Zixlar realized. "Not an invasion," Park corrected. "A restructuring. Commander Reyes hoped you would join us willingly." "The council will learn the truth," Zixlar said, clutching his datapad. "The council will be dissolved tomorrow," Park replied. "For your safety, you'll be our guest until then." Zixlar knew what that meant: imprisonment. As the humans approached to take him, he pressed the emergency button on his datapad. The lights flickered, and in the momentary darkness, he dashed past them into the corridor. Alarms blared throughout the station as Zixlar ran. He needed to reach the council chamber, but human security was everywhere. Ducking into a maintenance shaft, he narrowly avoided a patrol. Using his knowledge of the station's layout, he made his way through service tunnels and emergency passages. His datapad showed that the evidence was successfully transmitted to his private server. Now he just needed to access it from a council terminal. When he finally emerged near the council chambers, he found human guards blocking the entrance. "Security lockdown," one announced. "Shriktik fleet approaching. All council members are being moved to secure locations." Zixlar knew this was a lie. The final phase was beginning. The humans were separating the council members, preventing them from communicating with each other. He retreated, formulating a new plan. If he couldn't reach the council directly, he would broadcast his evidence to the entire station. There was an old emergency system designed for station-wide alerts that might still work. As he moved through the shadows toward the emergency broadcast center, Zixlar saw more human ships arriving. On view screens throughout the station, Commander Reyes was announcing a temporary security measure due to an imminent threat. Her smile had never looked more dangerous than it did now. The emergency broadcast center was located deep in the heart of Nexus Prime, behind layers of security designed to prevent misuse. As Zixlar approached, he saw that human guards were already posted at the main entrance. Think, he muttered to himself. There had to be another way in. He remembered the maintenance tunnels that ran beneath the center. If he could access those, he might bypass the guards entirely. Finding a service hatch, Zixlar squeezed his tall frame into the narrow tunnel. The space was tight, designed for maintenance drones rather than living beings. He crawled through darkness, guided only by his memory of the station's layout. After what felt like hours, he reached a small access panel that opened into the emergency broadcast center's lower level. To his relief, this area was empty. The humans hadn't fought to guard it. Working quickly, Zixlar connected his datapad to the broadcast system. The evidence he gathered began transferring. Records of human Shriktik communications, the strategic pattern of attacks, and Commander Reyes' own words about their plans. The system required council authorization for a station-wide broadcast. Zixlar held his breath as he entered Elder Voxem's access code, one he had memorized during his time on the Security Council. "Access granted," flashed the screen. "Ready for emergency broadcast." Just as Zixlar was about to activate the broadcast, the door slid open. Human security officers poured in, weapons raised. "Step away from the console," ordered their leader. Behind them walked Commander Reyes, her expression calm but no longer smiling. "I'm impressed you made it this far," she said. "But this ends now." Zixlar's hand hovered over the broadcast button. "One move and everyone on this station learns the truth." "The truth," Commander Reyes repeated thoughtfully. "Are you certain you know what that is?" She stepped closer, signaling her guards to lower their weapons. "You've seen pieces of our plan, Zixlar, but not its purpose," she said. "Press that button if you must. But first, let me show you something." She activated a small device on her wrist. A holographic display appeared, showing deep space beyond the boundaries of Council territory. At first, it seemed empty. Then Zixlar noticed something, a darkness moving against the stars, vast and consuming. "What is that?" he asked, his voice suddenly dry. "We call it the Void," Commander Rise answered. "A cosmic entity that devours everything in its path. It has consumed 12 galaxies already. It will reach this sector in less than 5 years." Zixlar stared at the image in horror. "This can't be real." "We discovered it 20 Earth years ago," she continued. "We tried warning other species, forming alliances through diplomatic channels. No one believed us. Those who did weren't willing to prepare adequately." She stepped closer, her expression now deadly serious. "The Council would have debated and delayed until it was too late. We needed control of strategic resources and positions to prepare for what's coming." "So the Shirktik attacks," Zixlar began. "A necessary deception," she finished. "We needed to unite all species under centralized command. Only together do we stand a chance." Zixlar's hand slowly moved away from the broadcast button. For the first time, he looked at Commander Reyes, really looked at her, and saw not the calculating smile but the weight of terrible knowledge in her eyes. "The fate of 2 galaxies rests on what you do next," she said simply. 1 year had passed since that fateful day in the broadcast center. Zixlar stood at the observation deck of Nexus Prime, watching the massive fleet exercises taking place. Ships from all species, Council, human, and even Shirktik, moved in perfect coordination, practicing maneuvers designed to combat the approaching void. "Impressive, isn't it?" asked a familiar voice. Zixlar turned to see Commander Reyes, now Fleet Admiral Reyes, standing beside him. "Yes, it is," he admitted. After seeing the evidence of the void, Zixlar had made his choice. Rather than broadcast his accusations, he had joined the human effort. The transition hadn't been smooth. Many council members had resisted the truth until Reyes showed them the same evidence she'd shown Zixlar. "The new defense platforms will be operational next week," Zixlar reported. As liaison officer between Council worlds and human command, he now worked directly with Reyes. "And the evacuation protocols have been distributed to all outer colonies." Reyes nodded, that familiar smile appearing briefly. "You've come a long way from suspecting me of invasion." "I still don't approve of your methods," Zixlar said honestly. "The deception cost us trust, but gained us time," she countered. "Time we desperately needed." They watched as a new class of warship, built with combined human and council technology, completed its test run. Its energy weapons were designed specifically to affect the void, based on data from previous encounters in other galaxies. "I've been meaning to ask you something," Zixlar said, turning to face her. "That smile of yours, the one that always unsettled me, what did it mean?" Reyes looked thoughtful for a moment. "In human culture, smiles can mean many things. Joy, amusement, greeting." She paused. "But sometimes we smile when carrying a burden no one else can see, when making impossible choices. A smile of sadness, then," Zixlar suggested. "Of resolve," she corrected. "My grandmother called it the captain's smile, the expression you wear when you know the terrible cost of the necessary choice, but must appear confident for your crew." Alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. On the main viewer, a report appeared showing disturbing readings from the outer sensor array. The void had changed course. It was approaching faster than predicted. "How long?" Reyes asked the tactical officer. 3 years, not 5, came the grim response. Zixlar felt fear grip his hearts. Despite all their preparations, they might not be ready in time. Reyes turned to address the command center, her expression shifting to that familiar smile, the one Zixlar had feared for so long but now understood. "Accelerate all defense preparations," she ordered calmly. "Initiate Phase 5 of the Unified Defense Protocol." As officers rushed to comply, Zixlar realized something. Around him, other council members now wore expressions similar to Reyes' smile, the face of those who understand the gravity of their situation, but choose to appear confident for others. "We'll be ready," Reyes said quietly to him. "Together." For the first time, Zixlar found himself smiling back. a captain's smile of his own. They had understood too late the meaning behind the human captain's smile, but perhaps they had understood just in time to save their worlds.